Welcome back to Smart Life. If you've been looking into diets recently, you've seen some people raving about the Paleo Diet. I've been seeing it everywhere. Well, we have fitness and nutrition expert Ryan Gillespie here. He says it falls short just a little bit. We're going to ask him about that. But first of all, tell us a little bit, Ryan, about what you do and how it is you came to even take such a serious look at the Paleo Diet.
Well, I help instruct and teach others about diet, fitness, nutrition, and so over the last few years, I've been sort of on a journey of coaching people through various diets, and I've learned with my own experience. I've lost a lot of weight in that time, and
can I ask how much you lost?
About 60 pounds,
oh,
55,
wow. That's
60
pretty
pounds.
significant.
Yeah, yeah. So and that's been done with diet and exercise, and so learning kind of the key things that work with diet and working with literally hundreds of other people online as they go through fitness programs, as they try different diets. I've kind of culled through what really works, and it's very complicated, but it's very simple at the same time, and that's where we get back to things like paleo, very basic diets.
So let me just try to paraphrase what my understanding is of paleo, and it's new to me, honestly. I'm sort of an HCG person. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. But I looked at paleo. It reminds me sort of that diet that was popular a few years ago with the Christians. It was basically the biblical foods, the nuts, the fruits, pretty low carb, not a lot of breads, especially not white flour and sugar and those things. Is that in a nutshell, sort of? Sort of,
it to me like that, or it's sort of like the reinvention of the Atkins diet without processed foods. It's like that, but the good thing is it focuses on whole foods. You got to give it credit for that. I mean, any diet that starts to move away from processed stuff to whole foods is a huge step in the right direction.
Ryan, you mentioned that you combed through different websites and things like that. What are some of your favorite forums or chat rooms or things like that where people can get just good input from real people rather than people trying to sell a product coming to that page? That gets on my nerves.
Right. Well, obviously I blog a lot, so I try to use my blog as a place to give people information about diet and nutrition. Other than that, I've gone to bodybuilding.com, I've gone to teambeachbody.com, which is another website. Just various different things, various blogs, and then just really reading things like Michael Pollan is one of my favorite nutrition authors that writes really good things about whole food and whole food diets and things like that.
We've been studying diet for decades now, and we're getting fatter. And in fact, the millennial generation, we're going to talk about this coming up on the show too, the millennial generation is the fattest ever. Something's really wrong here. What can you say you think is the most outstanding thing that we're just missing as a culture right now in talking about nutrition and fitness?
Right. I think it's really simple. Michael Pollan has a quote, and it says, "Don't eat anything your great grandmother would not recognize as food."
But I mean, okay, but my great-grandmother lived on bacon and butter, two of my favorite things, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
And cream sauces over the top of strawberries and things like that. And I remember just 10 years ago, people said, "Oh, no, never, no cream, no butter, no fat, no cholesterol." And now we're hearing all that's not true, so it makes it hard to think about, well, what is true then?
Well, it's another example of what you just talked about is what they call the French paradox. The French drink wine and they eat fatty foods and they're healthier than us.
Exactly.
The difference is,
and I like that idea, by the way.
But back to your original question, the difference is we're eating highly processed foods and we're stripping all the nutrients out of the food. And so we're eating foods that are highly caloric, but don't bring anything that we actually need. So we got to keep eating more. And it's engineered so that we will eat more. That way they can sell us more food. And
so for just a moment, for those who don't understand what processed foods are, let's back up just a little bit. I love how one person described it as if you walk around the outside of a grocery store, you're going to encounter a lot less processed foods, but you're still going to get, well, frankly, bacon, I guess you would call processed. You're going to get lunch meats. You're still going to get some processed foods in there. So is it back to the whole, if your great-grandma didn't eat it, it's probably a processed food?
Yeah, that and another easy trick is to look at the back of a nutrition label or the back of a food package and go, how many ingredients are on this?
Yes.
More than 5, that's a problem.
Probably bad. Yeah.
Or is there something I don't recognize? You know, all kinds of stabilizers and preservatives in here. Then it's
and
probably
words you can't read, then that's probably
yeah,
a
yeah,
bad sign.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so as far as the paleo diet is concerned, what do you think the advantages are to that diet? Using it loosely as a framework to, I think you called it, what did you call it? Bio-tailor or
Bio-individuality.
Bio-individualize, to bio-individualize to your own likes, dislikes, and strengths and weaknesses, frankly, because we all have them in dieting.
No, right, right.
Yeah.
I really think the great thing about paleo is it gets you focused back on those whole foods. You know, the first thing it really does is say, get away from processed foods. Don't even consider those. And then if you choose to eat meat, you know, which meat is a big part of the paleo diet, it starts to focus on grass-fed beef and not corn-fed beef, which there's a difference there.
And it tastes completely different too.
It does.
Yeah.
Some people actually prefer corn-fed beef, but you know, it taste-wise. But as far as there's another Poland saying that says, you know, you are what you eat. So if what you eat is fed crap, you're eating crap. And so if beef is fed corn, which isn't really made to digest in the first place, it actually stores more omega-6 fatty acids in its meat, and so you're consuming that higher content of omega-6s, which is less desirable than omega-3s, which we now know are good for us. So things like that in the paleo diet really are good aspects.
And where do you think the paleo diet falls short? If people are going to look into this diet, what should they watch out for?
Well, it's got some funny restrictions, I think, and this is my opinion. Again, you're leaps and bounds ahead if you're doing a paleo diet over a I don't know, a frozen dinner diet or something like that. You're making a big step in the right direction. But paleo excludes whole grains, which I think are necessary, especially if you exercise. Very important. It excludes dairy, which I don't eat a lot of dairy personally, but who doesn't want to go through life with a little bit of cheese at least?
Right.
And I like Greek yogurt and things like that. Whey protein isn't, you know, it's not going to kill you. And then it's also doesn't allow you to eat legumes, beans, which are a super high natural source for proteins.
Right, but also a source for carbohydrates, which is probably
Yes.
the reason why they
Right.
exclude them. Because does your body have to go into ketosis on the paleo diet or not?
No.
Okay, because in a lot of diets, that's the whole strategy, is putting your body into ketosis so that you lose weight theoretically faster. So that is one of the advantages, certainly, of that diet.
Yeah.
What other diets are out there, Ryan, that you think can be advantageous for folks to look into? Maybe they're not a super big meat eater, for example.
Well, I'll always lean towards the what I just call the real food or whole food diet, which is very similar to paleo, but it's really eat anything you want, just make it real food. What's being found is around the world, different ethnicity or different locations, different ethnicities are eating very diverse diets, and some people live on only fish, and some people only meat and only vegetables. You can eat real food, whole foods, almost in very extreme quantities, or macronutrients, I should say, but these are the diets that are actually turning out to be much more healthy than the standard American diet. So again, the whole foods is really the key. So eating.
But it's not, when you say whole foods, some people go, okay, well, I won't eat any more processed foods, but I'm going to eat as much as I want. And that doesn't work,
No.
at least unless you're working out 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And the whole goal is bodybuilding. Portion still does matter.
Right. So you've got to, there's really 2 or 3 things you got to pay attention to. There's portion sizes, you know, and total calorie intake per day. That's really a key thing.
Because we think calorie counting is a thing of the past, but it's still relevant.
Calories in equals how much fat you store, you know.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, versus calories burned. So if you burn a lot of calories, you can eat more. But if you don't, it's a pretty simple equation. So you've got to understand your daily calorie intake, obviously. You've got to have at least a decent idea of macronutrient ratio. So what I mean by that is how much protein versus how much carbohydrate versus how much fat are you eating. If one is super extreme, it's not going to be good. If you eat a ton of fat, that's not good.
Right.
If you eat a ton of protein, that's probably not good. If you eat a ton of carbohydrates, that's probably not good.
Right.
And then lastly, the last piece I think is that getting back to making all three of those things come from whole natural foods. So the fourth and final piece to what I think is the ultimate diet is learning to cook.
Oh, don't tell us that. You can't leave us on that note.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us. I do appreciate it. And it is true, like anything, when you're hands-on with your own nutrition, you're going to have better results because you can't control what the waiters and waitresses are doing. Thanks for being with us, Ryan. Tell us where we can find you quickly.
CoachRyanGillespie.com.
Awesome. We'll be right back with more Smart Life, helping you keep your New Year's resolution right after this.